Ah! Morzek screamed, as something came over the lip of the trench. He raised his plasma rifle, and only just stopped himself from pulling the trigger in time. It was only Goltax. He might be annoying, but there were worse things. In fact, if this war had been anything, it had been a first-class education in how many worse things there were than Goltax. It's over. We're screwed. Goltax slid down into the trench, and Morzek looked over at him, squinting with all 6 eyes. Where have you been? What's over? He shuffled along the trench, making sure to keep his head low. There were bound to be human snipers watching their lines, waiting for any mistake. The war, it's over. We might as well pack it up and go home now. Morzek's cranial ridges furrowed in annoyance. They'd been fighting over this planet for 2 years. They weren't about to just give up now. What are you talking about? What have you got there? He asked, pointing at the small container in Goltax's claws. Take a look for yourself, his squad mate said, tossing him the container. It was cold. Morzek almost dropped it reflexively, and as he fumbled with it, the lid came off. There was some sort of frozen paste inside. What is this? Morzek asked. Is it dangerous? Only to your waistline. It's ice cream, a human confection. Go on, try some. Morzek hesitated, then noticed the claw mark already carved across the surface. Goltax had evidently already tried some, and he was still standing. He got a bit on the tip of his claw, then licked it. It's sweet, like frozen Joramax sap. This is what you've got yourself worked up about. A dessert? Goltax sighed. Morzek, what do we eat? Ration bars. And what are they like? Morzek thought for a moment. He'd been a soldier for a while now, and he had a soldier's very specialized vocabulary. But there were unfortunately still only a finite number of curse words. They taste like someone vomited on shit, then used an oily industrial press to compress it into a bar. And they're none too nutritious either, so why do we eat them? Not like the army is going to give us anything better. They don't have anything better. Exactly. So you see our problem, Goltax said. Morzek looked at him blankly, and he sighed. We eat like shit because our side can barely get enough weaponry, ammunition, and of course soldiers out here to keep the war going. There aren't enough resources to make better food that will keep, and certainly not enough to ship it to us. And even if the army could do better, they wouldn't, because the high command care about us roughly as much as they care about the plasma rifles we use. Less, probably. Whereas the humans... Oh, Morzek said quietly. Yep. Not only can they afford to ship desserts all the way from their home planet, which by the way is considerably further away than ours, they can ship frozen desserts, right to the front line. The average temperature here is what, 30 degrees? Can you imagine the logistical challenge of transporting several tons of ice cream around? This wasn't the only tub, by the way. There was a whole stack of them. On any given day, we're short of a couple of things that are absolutely essential for us to keep fighting. Food, ammunition, medical supplies. Never mind useful non-essentials like material to repair the trenches, scout drones, body armor, and so on. I reckon we've been wearing out our logistics capacity trying to keep this going, while they were just getting warmed up. Morzek didn't say anything for a moment. He would have liked to tell Goltax that he still believed they were the best fighting force in the known universe, and that this iced cream was only evidence that humans were weak and pampered. But he couldn't pretend he hadn't noticed that the human bodies they came across, on the rare occasions they actually managed to advance, seemed to be awfully well equipped. He nodded slowly. Okay, so, it's over. We're screwed. Yep. Want to surrender with me? A few months ago, Morzek would have shot him for even suggesting that. But there didn't seem to be much point anymore. If nothing else, the enemy would probably do it for him soon. Still, he was a soldier of the Moctran dominance. He was supposed to die before dishonoring himself by being captured. On the other hand, a lot of his friends had died here, and at this point he had to admit, there didn't seem to be anything very honorable about being shot down before you'd made it a more than a few steps from the trench, then decaying in a shell hole. Pondering his options, he tasted another scoop of ice cream, a big one this time. It melted away in his mouth, much like his interest in dying pointlessly in this stupid war. In the distance, he could hear the constant background noise of the field hospital. Soldiers who'd been injured in the last bombardment still screaming. He had a moment of frozen clarity. Either he followed Goltax now, or he followed them to the field hospital. Ice cream or death, in other words. It was a really easy choice when you put it like that. Yeah, all right. Let's surrender. Do you think they'll give us more ice cream? We can always ask.